I think when it comes to moving abroad, cultural humility is a piece that a lot of people miss. And by a lot of people, I mean the people who are actively posting about moving abroad. There's people who move abroad and never post about it, and they probably do get the cultural humility piece, but we just don't see them as much. Part of the reason I think that is the case is that a lot of people who get a lot of the attention for being like move abroad resources they're white. They're white. A lot of people who do move abroad content and they're white. I actually have seen some stuff recently about people being like, things I didn't know before I moved abroad, that I was gonna have to become the cultural representation of America. And like every time I say that I'm American, people start questioning me about politics and things that are going on in the United States. And they were a younger white person. And while race may not play the same importance in other places, of course, racism and colorism pretty much exist around the world. I think a lot of Americans who have forever held a certain amount of privilege don't realize that when they go somewhere, they are no longer the very tippy top. Because like I said in my last video, even though people don't like it, they're immigrants, or they're at least viewed as immigrants. They are not viewed as someone who is from that country. So it doesn't surprise me when we have these think pieces from people who move abroad who are like, it was awful and it was terrible and like, I didn't like it. There were a few of those that came out last year, and I do think that they were a bit of propaganda. But I also think that there's grains of truth in them because these people are used to experiencing a level of privilege that may be stripped away from them when they move somewhere else where they become othered. And I've seen it time and time again in these expat groups where people are like, we need to start a support group for all the things that we go through. And I'm making it seem like a whiny voice because it feels whiny. And I just remember before moving, I saw a comment on one of those posts and it was an older Black woman who was like, I feel extremely comfortable here and I don't feel really like any different than I would anywhere else. And I personally believe that is because in the United States, as a Black person or just a non-white person, you typically have to learn to navigate systems, learn a new language, put on a mask, put on a performance to survive. And people who come from a more privileged perspective don't ever have to do that. So for instance, in France, people who come here and they're just like, they don't do it the way that I like it, or they were rude to me. No, you didn't walk in and say bonjour, even if you have a really terrible accent. You didn't try. You were being loud in a public space. You were being loud on a tram, or you were walking away from the beach without proper clothing on and trying to go into a store. There are a number of things that may not be a cultural norm in the United States that are a cultural norm somewhere else, but a lot of people with a level of privilege are used to getting away with it. Which is why I listed cultural humility as one of the top 3 things that I think people need to work on before they move abroad. Because I think being aware that you aren't aware of everything going on, I'm not aware, I have no idea what's going on. I've literally been here for 3 months. No idea what's going on. I learn something every day. I embarrass myself constantly, but I'm taking in that information and reminding myself, even when things feel frustrating, even when I feel like, oh, like that's just, it doesn't make sense to me. That's all it is. It doesn't make sense to me because I'm not from here. So why would it make sense to me? Because I've done it a different way, but I'm not there anymore. So yeah, that's just my experience. I really do think that certain people who, again, have a higher level of privilege in the place that they're coming from have expectations that are not met with the reality of the place that they're going. And then we hear complaints or we hear wildly inappropriate things like American trained dentist. Just one woman's thought. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna go blow dry my hair now. So see ya.